Hello friends, welcome to my channel Self-Betterfly. This is Porshia, your counselling psychologist, and today I have brought to you NCERT's Class 11 Psychology, Chapter 1, What is Psychology? Today we will talk about the Part 2 and which also takes care of psychology as a discipline. So there are subsequent two parts of this particular area of the chapter, and they will be taking care of psychology as a natural science and psychology as a social science. So today we will talk about psychology as a discipline. So let's start the video. So we have studied this earlier also, that psychology is study of behavior, mental processes and experience. But when it comes to talk about psychology as a discipline, then we see that there are certain rules, or let's say a process, or it has to be something systematic way of studying it, which is verifiable and objective. Now, psychologists seek to understand and explain how the mind works and how different mental processes result in different behaviors. And as a layman, if you study these things, then there may be some barriers like your own preconceived notions, or maybe your own style of thinking or interpreting things. What is the difference between the study done by psychologists? Psychologists try to minimize the biases in their explanations of behavior and experience in various ways. So how do they do it? So some psychologists make their explanations scientific and objective. So as stated earlier, that they have to adopt some systematic method or something, on which they can rely, some reliable method, so that they can generalize or they can take out some observations or clearly state it as a knowledge. So they try to make it very scientific and objective. Some psychologists, however, explain behavior from the point of view of experiencing persons, that is the subject. And here comes the subjectivity. We have discussed this in the previous video also, that how when experiences have to be studied, subjectivity comes into picture, because the person who is having that experience will have something unique with that experience, something which is solely and uniquely to that person only. So that is why subjectivity cannot be denied, and it becomes part and parcel of study of human behavior. Now, in Indian tradition, self-analysis and self-reflection of our conscious experiences is held major source of psychological understanding. And we find such examples in Bhagavad Gita. We find such examples in form of Buddha's theory, because Lord Buddha or Gautam Buddha has primarily focused on the causes and the reasons of the human suffering, and how we can, by understanding the functioning of mind, try to get away from that, or find a resolution to that, or solution to that, or understand the very much nuances of it. And believe you or not, the Western psychologists, some Westerners also have understood the role of self-reflection and self-knowledge in understanding human behavior and experience, and they are also employing the Indian traditions to understand human behavior. But regardless of whatever the method is and how they are trying to achieve it, the main thing that remains is that they seek to understand and explain the human experiences and mental processes in a systematic and verifiable manner, which means that there has to be some process, there has to be some method which should be followed to understand those mental processes and experiences and human behavior, and also it should be verifiable. Now, if you test something you come to a conclusion, and if I later on test the same thing, the result should be very much similar, if not equal, or let's say the same. Now, as a discipline, we see that it has really evolved, because when we call psychology as a discipline, it is a very old discipline, because we know that it has emerged from philosophy. But when we talk about psychology as a science, when we say it is a science, it is very young science, because what we have found is that in 1879 in Leipzig, we found the first laboratory of psychology. Now, that makes it a quite young science, not very old. And let's not get into the details of that here, but what is important here is that psychology is also considered as a social science. Now see, it is considered as a science also, as a social science also. So in subsequent part of this chapter, we will be talking about psychology as a natural science and psychology as a social science. So we will get into the detail at that time, but here it is very much worthy of mention that in India right now we have both the degrees. We have a BA also in psychology, we have psychology at MA level, and we have psychology as in BSc also, and as a MSc also. MSc in the psychology is also there. So when we look at psychology from a scientific point of view, we try to again establish it as a scientific discipline, and so we focus on the biological processes here. So we see that psychology is overlapping with some emerging disciplines which are worth mentioning here, that is neuroscience and computer science. Now, neuroscience and computer science, how? First, let's talk about neuroscience. In neuroscience, we see that we are coming up with lot of technologies, brain imaging technologies like fMRI, EEG, etc. Now, with the help of these technologies, we try to understand the brain processes in real time. That is, as and when they are happening, we try to understand them, that how I am calculating or solving a mathematical question and what goes on in my brain at that time. So we try to understand the brain processes, or let's say the mental processes, through these particular techniques. And in IT field also, in IT area also, we understand that human computer interaction and artificial intelligence cannot possibly grow without psychological knowledge in cognitive processes. So if I have to develop AI, I must know how my mind works, how cognitive psychology is taking place, how it we need to understand that. Then only we can make such type of models in our AI and computers. And you won't disagree with me. This is really very enlightening and happening, and we are very much aware of the recent advances in this field. Now that gives us a very much concluding factor that it has, as a discipline, psychology has two parallel streams. Now, one is use of method of physical and biological sciences, which aims to know cause and effect relationship between phenomena so that it can be predicted and controlled. So there is a typo here, please excuse me for that. So there it can be predicted and controlled. Use of method of social and cultural sciences is a second stream, and through this we try to understand that how the interaction with socio-cultural context, we try to understand that how interaction with socio-cultural context give rise to various type of behaviors, and which also gives a sneak peek into the human psyche, that how people are actually dealing with situations and behaving when they are in a particular environment, when they are in particular society. So that's what we will be studying in the subsequent videos: psychology as a natural science and psychology as a social science. So that was all in this today's video. I hope it was delightful and knowledgeable. If you really liked it, then do comment so that I know. Please do share it with your friends and also like it, and don't forget to subscribe my channel. Thank you so much. See you again in next video. Bye bye.